we did this problem, and I mentioned that again, we need to find a multiple of each of the A term and each of the C term, so that when you mix and match, you need to multiply the inside and multiply the outside together so that you can add them up or subtract them to give you the middle term. And I mentioned step 5 is the most important step in order for you to be successful with this method. The step 5 is the one thing that you want to looking for a lot, in the sense that you cannot put the common divider in one parenthesis. So looking at this item here, let's take a look at D, and this is where we stopped yesterday. And let's take a look at this problem, and hopefully you guys see, or you guys have some time to work on this problem, right? So if you were to work on this problem yesterday, I mentioned that this problem, the first item we need to do is we need to find a multiple of 6. And in the sense of the multiple of 6, this is what we have is, you either say, well, let me do it consistently of yesterday. Yesterday, this is what we have, right? I mentioned that we have 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6, right? The multiple of 6, find what two numbers multiply together to give you 6. So the multiple of 6, this is all we got is 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6, right? And then we have to find a multiple of 12. And in this case, we know that 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12, and then 3 times 4 is 12. Again, the next number is 4 times 3. We repeat it, meaning there is no other multiple of 12 beside this 3. And if you remember, this is what we need to do, is we need to create my parenthesis, create 2 parentheses, and all I need to do is take the inside number times the inside number, and take the outside number times the outside number. And again, let's use this as my red ink as the first item. So if I don't know, right? Let's say I don't know the multiple. Let's say I don't know what the multiple is. What I can do is I can say, well, 1x and 6x. I can try this item, and this is what the try and error do. Try and error tell you just try it out, and if you have it, you got the answer. And if you don't have it, we can try again. Again, Monday and Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday was our fall break. We have class yesterday and today. So the fall break was just Monday and Tuesday. That's what you have. But if you do this thing here, reminder, this is what we have. And let's say that my blue ink is this item here. And let's take a look at this item. How do we know if we add or subtract? Reminder, to know if we add or subtract, we know that this item here, the last term, the C term, tell us to add or subtract. And in order for us to know if we add or subtract, again, for me, this is how I guess them. This is what my try and error is. If I know I add, I have the same sign. I put either both positive or both negative. If the C term is subtraction, I know that one of them is positive, one of them is negative. And now, again, we just go in and guess them out. Reminder, the step 5 tell us that whatever you do, you cannot put the same multiple together. Well, not multiple, but have a common divider together, right? Step 5 tell us that you cannot put the same common divider in one parenthesis. And that is the key, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at this thing here, that eliminates a lot. Why do I say eliminate a lot? If you were to try this item, we know we cannot put a 12 here. We know that we cannot put a 12 there because 6 and 12, they have a common divider, right? So if they have a common divider, we cannot put it there. So we have to put the 12 on the other side. We have to put the 12 on the other side. And if we put the 12 on this side, you know we kind of cannot do that either, right? Why we cannot do this either? Because 6 times 12 is some humongous number, and 1 times 1 is just 1. 6 times 12, that's 72. 72 minus 1 will not give you 1, right? We're looking for a 1 in the middle. So looking at this thing here, we cannot use the 12 and the 1. And if we cannot use the 12 and the 1, everybody see that we cannot use, we cannot use the 2 and the 6. Can we use the 2 and the 6? Well, we cannot put a 6 here. That's not good. We cannot put a 2 here because 2 and 6, they have a common divider. So we know that we cannot use this item with this combination. And also, we cannot use the 3 or a 4. Everybody see that we cannot put a 3 here. Neither can we put a 4 because 4 and 6, they have a common divider of 2. 6 and 3, they have a common divider of 3. So as you can see, if you remember that rule, if you remember that inside your parenthesis, you cannot have a common divider, you eliminate half of your option, okay? If you look at this thing here, we did this and we see that we cannot use the 1 and 6. The reason why we cannot use the 1 and 6 is no matter what you put in, well, you can try it out, but it will not work out, right? This is what we have is we cannot have a common divider inside the same parenthesis. So this thing here, we know that it's not work out. Now, if we use 2, now on this side for the 6, we are forced to use the 2 and the 3. We are forced to use the 2 and the 3. There's no other option because of what we have in terms of this item. So if this thing does not work out, we kind of stop, and this will be prime if we cannot find the item. So everybody see that I can eliminate the 1 and the 12. Why can I eliminate the 1 and 12? Do you agree that no matter where I put the 12, well, based on my definition, I cannot put the 12 here. Neither can I put the 12 here because 2 and 12, they have a common divider of 2, and 3 and 12, they have a common divider of 3. So the 12 kind of, nope, we cannot use it, ladies and gentlemen. The 12 is not there. And if you remember from yesterday, I say that the 2 and the 6, we cannot, there's nowhere I can put the 6 because the 2 and the 3 have a common divider of with 6, right? I cannot put a 6 here. I cannot put a 6 there, and I cannot put a 6 there because 2 can go into 6 and 3 can go into 6. So now I'm down to my last straw, right? I'm down to my last straw, which is my last straw is the 3 and the 4. And the 3 and the 4, hopefully you guys see that we cannot put the 4 on this side and we cannot put the 3 on this side. We are forced, right? This is the last setup we have. The last setup we have is this item here, which is 2 plus 3x and 3x plus 4. There's no other combination we can do. So now let's test this thing out. And to test this thing out, we have 3 times 3, that will give me 9x. 2 times 4, that will give me 2 times a negative 4 to give me a negative 8. Everybody agree that 9 minus 8, that would give me 1x. Whoa, wait a minute here, ladies and gentlemen, right? After all of that, we still run into trouble, right? Do we looking for a positive 1 or are we looking for a negative 1? We are looking for a negative 1. We got the number, but we don't have a sign. And if you remember from yesterday, I mentioned that this is what you have. If you have this, if everything is correct, you got the number you needed, but the only thing different is the sign, then all you need to do is switch your sign. Switch your sign, and then you will have the correct answer. So how do we switch the sign? Well, last time I have positive on one side and negative on the other side. So now if I switch it, do you agree that this is what I have is -3 times 3, that will give me a -9, 2 times 4 to give me a +8, and one positive, one negative, we have to subtract them. And if I subtract them, I kept the sign of the larger number, which is in this case, the larger number is 9. So I have my -1, this item here. So now I know that my answer is basically 2x minus 3 times 3x plus 4. Or if you want to, you can say 3x plus 4 and 2x minus 3. It's either one or the other. It cannot be anything else. Okay. So in this case, this is what the try and error. This is what try and error tell you to do. The try and error is basically tell you to try it out. If you have an error, erase it and try it again. Try until you have it right. Okay. And again, I know some of you probably find a frustration, but if you keep in mind of this item right here, if you keep in mind of the step 5, if you keep that in mind, you will save yourself a lot of time. Okay. Whatever you put in the parentheses, they cannot have a common divider. Okay. And if you're in doubt, you can always factor them out, right? If you're in doubt, you can always FOIL them out, factor them out. Well, not factor them, FOIL them out. Okay. So let's take a look at this problem E. Let's take a look at this problem E. And if you take a look at this problem E, this is what we have. Ax squared plus 13x minus 6. So we know that we minus, and again, this is your thought process. Your thought process is this. We know that the 6 is negative. One of them is positive. The other one is negative. I don't know which one. I know that this item is negative. I know that one of them got to be positive. One of them got to be negative. I don't know which one is which. I can switch it at the end. What I need to do is I need to find this 2 number, multiply them together, and this 2 number, multiply them together. And I need to subtract them to give me 13, right? So how do I fill in this number? How do I fill in this number? What do I need to do? Well, I need to find a multiple of 8. What is the multiple of 8? Well, multiple of 8 is easy, hopefully. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. The multiple of 8, what 2 number multiply to give you 8? Well, 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 4 is 8. And then we need to find the multiple of 6. The multiple of 6 is, hopefully you say it's easy. We did this earlier, which is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Now, all you need to do is put in the first item again. If you want to, you can try 1x and 8x, because 1 times 8 is 8 and x times x is x squared. And again, the reason why I have the x there is because of that x squared. And if you want to, you can, again, this is my, for me, I do this item here. I know that I don't want to use the one, well, I can, but I don't want to. I don't want to use the 6 and the 1, right? Why? Because I know if I were to use the 6 and the 1, I cannot put the 6 here. The 6 cannot be together with the 8, because as long as they are even, they have a common divider of 2. So I cannot put the 6 together with the 8. And if I put it like this, you can see that 8 times 6, that will give me 48. And 48 minus 1, that will not give me 13, right? So I notice if I use the 1, and the 8, I cannot use the 6 and the 1. If I use the 1 and the 8, I have to use the 3 and the 2. And if I use the 3 and the 2, do you agree that the 2, let me ask you, can I put it like this? Can I put the 2 here and the 3 there? I mean, you could, but it's not going to be right. I can guarantee you that it's not going to be right, because if you do this thing here, you can see that this thing will give you 24 minus 2. Well, 24 minus 2 will not give you 13, right? So if you're using this thing here, we can see that, well, we have to use you are forced to put the 2 over here and the 3 over here, because in your parentheses, they cannot have a common divider. And if you were to do this thing here, you can test it out. And again, what do we do? Do you agree that 2 times 8 to give me 16? And 1 times negative 3, 1 times negative 3 to give me negative 3. And do you agree that 16 minus negative 3 will give me positive 13? Voila, ladies and gentlemen, we got it, we find it. And again, looking at this thing here, we are done. There's nothing we can do. Well, not that there's nothing we can do, but this is what we need to do is we guess it. And eventually, hopefully you have the patience and guess it out correctly. And this is our answer, ladies and gentlemen. There's no, again, you can, if you want to, you can put ax minus 3 and 1x, or simply just an x plus 2. If you want to, you can switch the position, but you cannot switch the item inside your parenthesis. Okay, you can switch the position of your parenthesis, but you cannot switch the item inside your parenthesis. And again, hopefully you guys see that you cannot use the 2 and the 4, because 2 and 4, no matter where you put the 2, the 6, you cannot put the 6 on with the 2 and 4, because 2 and 4 are even, and you cannot use the 2 and the 3 with the 2 and the 4, because both of the numbers even. You cannot, unless on the other side they be odd number, then you can put in, but as long as they are 2 even number, you cannot put them in one parenthesis. Okay. Let me ask you guys. Let me pause. Let me pause and ask you guys a question with this particular problem, this particular method. And again, if whoever see a little bit confusion, or you say, oh man, I don't have the patience to keep on guess and guess and guess, we will have another method for you. And if you don't like this method, you have to like the other one. If you don't like the other one, we're in trouble. You have to pick one. There's no way around it. It's either this one or the other one. Okay. Let's try this problem. Let me ask you guys to try this problem for me. Let me ask you, let's say if you have this question on your test, let me ask you to see if you can work on this problem here. So I will let you guys work on that problem. Hmm. Uh, all right. Um, so again, looking at this thing here, our goal, and again, someone type in a chat. So our goal is we want to use some number that we can put in. And again, I use my red ink for this item. I will use my red ink, and this item I will use my blue ink, right? So my red ink, like I mentioned, you know, your thought process, if you want to, yes, you can try the one is not wrong. I mean, you can try the 1x and the 10x. But if you do the 1x and 10x, you know that you cannot use the 1 and the 12. I mean, you could, but it will not work out. Right? If you put this in here, we cannot use the 2 and the 6. Everybody see we cannot use the 2 and 6 because I cannot put the 2 here and I cannot put a 6 here because 2 and 6, they have a common of 10. And I end up with, I have to try the 3 and the 4. And if I do the 3 and the 4, I can only put the 3 here and the 4 here. And if you FOIL them out, you will see that 4 times this will give you 40, and 3 times that to give you -3, which is 40 minus 3. That is not it. This thing will give me 37, and it's not just 7, right? So looking at this thing here, we cannot use in this thing here. We see that this item will not work out for us. And if that item doesn't work out for us, now we are forced, or we will try to use the 5 and the 2, because we test this thing out, we try it, it doesn't work out. So now what can we do? Well, we try to do the 2 and the 5, and if we put the 2 here and the 5 here, you see that we kind of wrong already, right? The 2 and the 5, I mean the 2 and the 4 cannot be together. So if you put this, you're forced to use the 3 here and the 4 here. And if you do that, let's test this thing out. Let's FOIL this thing out. This is the reverse of FOIL, meaning you put it in and then you FOIL them out, right? We don't need to do the first time the first. We don't need to use this because the 2 times 5, that's where I got the 10. And we don't need to do the last time the last, because 3 times 4, that's where I got the 12. So we don't need to FOIL in terms of the first time the first and the last time the last. All we need to do is do the inside, which is in this case 3 times 5. 3 times 5, that will give me 15, and 2 times 4, that will give me 8. And again, 15 negative, not negative, 15 positive, and 8 is negative. And again, 15 minus 8, everybody see that 15 minus 8, that will give me 7. But I'm not looking for 7. I'm looking for a -7. And if I'm looking for a -7, I got the number. How can I change the sign? Well, to change the sign, all you need to do is switch this item to be positive and switch this item to be negative. And again, if you in doubt, like I keep on mentioning to you guys, if you in doubt, let's FOIL this out, right? How do you FOIL this out? If you remember, FOIL this out, this time this, that will give me 10x squared. This time this to give me positive 8x, and this -3 times this to give me a negative 15x, and a -3 times this to give me a negative 12. And again, what do we need to do? We need to combine like term, and our like term is the x and the x, which is we have 10x squared minus 7x minus 12, and that is our problem up there. So we know this is what we did. We did the inverse FOIL, and the inverse FOIL give me this item. And that is our answer, ladies and gentlemen. This is the factor. This is the factor of this trinomial. So in the sense, if you remember, in the sense of chapter 5, we FOIL them in. Now we need to factor them out. And our objective, our goal is mix and match your item so that you can find that multiple. Okay, so again, if you wrote 5x plus 4 times 2x minus 3, if you wrote this item here, that is perfectly fine. Like I say, you can change the position of your parenthesis, but you cannot change the item inside your parenthesis. Question with this thing here. Well, if you don't have question with this thing here, let's take a look at the 6.4. And again, if you don't like the guessing method, because what I just show you, the try and error, and that's what my teacher told me when I learned it. My teacher tell me this: go outside and buy the biggest eraser you can find, and then you test it out. If you have it correct, that's good. If not, you just erase it and try it again. And that's what try and error is, right? And it's when I start teaching, I see it's kind of hard to tell you guys, just go out there and guess until you guess it right? So if you don't like the guessing method, the try and error, we have this method we call the AC method, or factor trinomial by grouping. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing here. If you don't like the AC, not the AC, if you don't like the try and error, we have this AC method. And this AC method is a little bit better in the way for me to teach you, because you guys can follow this step by step. Okay, so let's take a look at the step that I have for you guys. This is the AC method step. So the AC method tell you this. If you look at the problem, and if you remember, this is what we have is, this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. Those are your trinomial, right? And the AC method tell you take the A item, multiply to the C item. So if you do this, and again, just bear with me here, we will do this. I will do this as I go with the step, and then we will do it a few more problems, right? So what is 6 times 8? Well, 6 times 8 to give me 48. And again, 6 times 8 is 48, or in this case is a positive 48. So that's what is number. We do individually, and we do not do with the 8 individually. All we're doing is we take the sum 8 to find a number. Now come the hardest out. We ask us, there are two numbers multiply to give me 8 that either add together. If it's positive, we think in terms of addition. If it's negative, we think in terms of subtraction. Is there two numbers multiplied to give me 48, but add together to give me 19? I ask, is there two number multiply this number? So we have to list them out, right? If you in doubt, you just list every single number out in terms that 1 times 40 times 24, 3 times 16. You probably can stop here, right? But if not, you can see that 4 times 12, 5 cannot go to 48, 6 times 8, 7 cannot, 8 times 6, we repeat it. There's no other multiple, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the combination that multiply together to give you 48. So I told you guys that we can stop here. Why? Because 3 times 16 is 48, and 3 plus 16 is 19, right? So what do? Once we find a multiple, this is what you have to do is you have to rewrite the problem. What do we do in terms of rewrite the problem? Do you agree that 3x plus 16x is equal to 19x? You can disagree, but you will be wrong, right? 3x plus 16x, that will give me 19x. What do I do? Well, this would be both positive. All I need to do is bring down my first item, 6x squared, bring down my last item, which is 8x. So this is my new problem here, ladies and gentlemen. I took the A times the C. I find a multiple of that number that add together to give me 19. And then I rewrite the problem, but instead of write 19, I break the 19 down to two numbers, which is the 3 plus the 16. 3 plus 16 to give me 19. So now, once I have that, what do I do? All you need to do is factor them out by grouping. If you remember, how do we group them? If we have 4 items, all we need to do is group the first 2 and group the second 2. In the first group, what can you factor out? Do you agree that I can factor out the 3 and the x? Why? Because 3 can go to 6. 3 going to 6 is 2 times. The x going to x squared is 1 time. And 3 going to 3 is 1 time. And in the second group, what can I factor out? Because I include a positive, I factor out a positive, and I can take out an 8, because 8 going to 16 is 2 times, and 8 going to 8 is 1 time. And hopefully you guys see that the item in your parenthesis is the same. And if they are the same, you bring it to the outside, which is 2x plus 1. And what is the leftover? If I took this thing out, do you agree that the leftover is 3x plus 8? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is your answer. Again, if you want to check, do you agree that 2 times 3, that will give me 6? Right? 2 times 3, that will give me 6. 1 times 8. 2 times 3, that will give me 6. X times x is x squared. 1 times 8 is 8. We can see that the first number and the last number is correct. How do I test the middle? Do you agree that 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 8 is 16, and 3 plus 16 to give me 19x, and that is what we have there. Okay, and again, I know this is the first time you see this method, and you kind of a little bit iffy, but again, let me do one more. And then I take any question you might have. Okay, let me do one more here. And similarly, this one here, this is what we have, and let me just focus into the problem. So no matter what problem you have, this is what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen. You need to take the A times the C. the A times the C to give you positive 40. And positive 40 tell you that we need two numbers multiply to give you 40, but add together to give you 13. And if you in doubt, just list every single number out. 1 times 40 is 40. 2 times 20 is 40. 4 times 10, 5 times 8. And I don't think there's any other number multiplied to give you 40 that is add together. That can divide or go into 40 evenly. Okay, so hopefully you guys see that we are thinking in terms of addition, which this is what we have is 5 plus 8 to give me 13. That's what we need. And because we're looking for a negative 13, remember they need to be the same sign. So this is what we have to do is once you identify that, all you need to do is, do you agree? Don't agree with me when I'm wrong. Do you agree that negative 5x and negative ax, negative and a negative, we need to add them and keep the sign? Negative 5x and a negative ax, if I add them together, I will get a negative 13x, right? And how do I get the 5 and how do I get the 8? That is the multiple I'm looking for, the 5 and the 8. What do I need to do? I need to bring down the first item, which is the 10x squared. I need to bring down the last item, which is the 4. And now, what can I do? I need to, the last thing, once you break down, once you rewrite the problem, we change the look of the problem, but we did not change the problem itself. Instead of write 13x, we write 5 and 8, the breakdown of the 13. So once we have this, all we need to do is group them up. We group the first two, and we group the second two. Let me erase all of this thing here. And again, all we need to do from here is factor out what they have in common. What do they have in common in the first group? Hopefully you say that the common item is the 5x. So I took out the 5, I took out an x to give me 2x minus 1. And if you remember, because we include a negative, I need to factor out a negative. And in this case, I need to factor out a negative 4. And hopefully you guys see that negative 4 go into 8 or negative go into negative will give me a positive 2. And negative go into positive will give me a negative 1. And looking at this thing here, ladies and gentlemen, the item in my parenthesis is the same. So I bring out the 2x minus 1. If I bring this thing down out, this is what I have left over, which is the 5x minus 4. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our answer. Okay, so if you in doubt, right? If you in doubt, you can always test this out. You can always FOIL this. Yes, this thing here work with the previous one. Like I mentioned, the previous method is the same. You go, the only thing they tell you to do is factor, right? So you either do the try and error, And again, if you do try and error, it's basically you guess, right? This is what they tell you is find me two number, and then multiply this item, guess it out. And that's why the previous method I cannot teach you, because all I tell you to do is this is the problem, go in there, guess it, put in the number until you guess it right. And that's kind of hard if you don't know your multiple timetable. It's hard to guess it. But if you don't want to, this is the other alternative way to do it, which is the AC method. And like I mentioned, there's a pro and there's a con for every method, right? The try and error is easy if you know your timetable. If you know your timetable, the try and error is very easy. And you can guess it easily, whatever problem you have. If you don't know your timetable, it will be hard for the try and error because you don't know what to try, right? Then you have to do this AC method, okay? So again, before we continue, let me ask you guys a question in term of this thing here. Question in term of this AC method, and again, just like the step, multiply the A times the C, find a multiple, rewrite your problem, and factor out by grouping. There's nothing else beside this 4 item. Okay. So question here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's try. Let's try this thing. You know, and again, you know, for me, because I do, for me, because I learned it with the try and error. So, you know, for me, this is what I do is I look at this problem and I do the try and error. I basically tell me that, okay, my 6 is negative. I know that this is what I have is one of them is positive, one of them is negative. And then I know that I have to subtract to give me 1. So what I can do is I say, okay, I have, you know, I put it in the 12, 3 times 4 is 12, right? The x times the x is x squared. And then I just go in and then how do I get this 6? Well, I can do 2 and 3, right? For me, this is what I do. I just test them out and then I say, okay, this is your try and error method. 2 times this will give me 8 and 3 times this to give me 9. And when I subtract this thing, I get a negative 1x. And again, I'm done, right? If you do the try and error method, that's all you do, right? How did you get the 9 here? You have the 3 times the 3 to give you 9. And that's what the previous item we did, okay? That's what the previous item we did in terms of the try and error. And again, you probably say, well, Mr. Tran, you did this a long time. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I did this a long time and that's how I know how to do the try and error, okay? So let's take a look at this answer and let's see if the AC method, came out to be the same answer as we have here, okay? So again, we saw the answer. We can FOIL this thing out and you can see that the answer will give you the problem back, okay? So if you were to do the AC method, what do we need to do? Well, the AC method, ladies and gentlemen, the AC method tell me that I take the 12, multiply the 6, and again, the 6 is negative, so I will end up with a negative 72. And because of the negative 72, I have to think in terms of subtraction, okay? Last time, if you remember, last time up here, we have a positive 40, so we think in terms of addition, right? We have a positive 40, we think in terms of addition, and this thing here, we have a positive 48, so we think in terms of addition. Now, the difference is when you multiply, you have a negative 72. And if it's a negative 72, we think in terms of subtraction. And again, the problem with AC is we don't know the multiple of 72 is bigger. So we know that 1 times 72, and again, 1 times 72, 72 minus 1 would not give me 1, right? 2 times 36, that's not good. A big number minus a smaller number, not gonna work out. 3 times 24. And again, you probably do 4 times 18. 5 doesn't go into it. 6 times 12. 7 doesn't go into this thing here. You get 8 times 9, and the next number is 9 times 8. You can see that you are repeated. And if you repeat it, there's no other multiple. And looking at this item here, hopefully you guys see that this is what we have is 8 times 9 is 72, and 8 minus 9 or 9 minus 8 is 1. And that's what we're looking for, right? we're looking for what number multiplied to give me the AC. What number multiplied to give me the AC that add together or subtract together to give me the middle term. And in this case, this is what I have, the 7 or the 9 and the 9 and the 8. So all I need to do is, again, the bigger number will get the sign of the middle term. So all I need to do is I say -9 plus AX. Again, instead of write 1x, I say a -9 plus 8 because a -9 plus 8, I have to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So this is what I have is I have to rewrite this problem. And again, doesn't matter if you put the 8 in front or the 9 in front. Just know that wherever you put the 9 have to be negative and the 8 have to be positive. And again, all I do is I rewrite this problem and say 12x squared minus 6. And once I have this thing here, all I need to do is, once I rewrite it, I need to group them up and factor them out. What do I do in terms of this factor? All I need to do is between the 9 and the 12, do you agree that I can bring out the 3x? I can bring out the 3x. Let me with 3 going to 12 is 4. X going to x is 1, right? 3 going to 3, 3 going to 9 is 3. There is no longer an x. And between a 6 and an 8, do you agree that I can bring out a 2? And 2 going to this thing will give me 4x, and 2 going to this thing will give me 3. And ladies and gentlemen, factor out by grouping, this is what we need. Factor out by grouping, we need the parenthesis to be the same. And if the parenthesis is the same, I bring the parenthesis out, which is the 4x minus 3. What is the leftover? The leftover is the 3x plus 2. And magically, right? Magically is the same item I have up here. Just different order, but the order doesn't matter. All it matters is 4x minus 3, 4x minus 3, 3x plus 2, 3x plus 2. And again, that's what we have, right? You know, if you're good with timetable, you can guess them out. If you're not good with timetable, this is the only option. Is take the A term, time the C term, find the multiple of that either add together or subtract them to give you the B term, rewrite the problem, and factor out by grouping. Okay. So it's up to you. Again, you guys, I am not forcing you to do the AC. I am not forcing you to do the try and error, but I'm forcing you to do one or the other, right? Because this is the only 2 items you can do. This is the only 2 items that you're able to do this thing here. So you have to, choose one and kind of stick to it and master it. Some students like the AC because you can do step by step. Some students like the guessing because they're good with timetable. For me, I'm good with timetable, so I'm good with try and error. But I was there once, right? I was a student once. I know how frustrating you guys dealing with this item. If you don't have questions, let me ask you guys to do this one for me. And I purposely give you this thing here because it's the same number we have on the previous one. So see if you can do D. I will give you a few minutes. And again, if you want to do the AC, go ahead. If you want to do the try and error, go ahead and do the try and error. But this is all they ask you, factor. Yes, Isaac. So if you were to do this, and again, I would do both way. Whoever wants to do the AC method, this is what you have. Reminder that we have 72 and the 72 is negative. So we know that we need to subtract. And in order for us to subtract, this is what we have is instead of writing 14, we write 18x minus 4x because and this is what we have is in order to rewrite this problem, we need to break down the middle term. And the middle term is 14. So in order for me to get 14, I know that 18 times 4 is 72 and 18 minus 4 will give me 14. And all I need to do is bring down the first item, which is the ax squared, bring down the last item, which is the 9x. And like I mentioned, the only reason why I give you this problem is because of the multiple of 72. We already did this, right? This problem, the multiple of 72 is the same multiple of 72 up here. So, but because of the middle term is different, we use a different combination. Instead of using 7 and 8 and 9, we using the 18 and the 4. So if you do this thing here, now what do we do? Well, in the first group, the only thing I can take out is the 2 because they don't have anything in common other than 2 because 2 going to 8 would give me 4 and x, I took it out, and 2 going to 9, 18 would give me 9 and there's no more x. And once I have this thing here, even though the second item, you probably say, well, there's nothing in common The only thing they have in common is because you include a negative, you need to factor out a negative. And if you factor out a negative, this is what you have is you have 4x plus 9. And again, let me erase all of this item here that we don't need, right? All of the multiple that we did before. Once you factor this or once you group them, there's no need for those items there. As you can see, this is what we have. We have 4x plus 9. And what is the leftover? The leftover is 2x minus 1. So this is the combination that you have. And if you in doubt, right? If you in doubt, you can always FOIL this thing out. You can always FOIL this, and to make sure, you just basically take the 9 times the 2 to give you 18, the 4 times a negative 1 to give you negative 4, and as you can see, 18 minus 4 to give you 14x, and that is what we have up here, 14x, right? And we can see that this is what, and again, to test this number, we know that 4 times 2, that's 8. And 9 times negative 1, that's negative 9. So we don't need to multiply the first one. We don't need to multiply the second one. Okay, so looking at this thing here, looking at this item here, question with the AC method here. So if you, like I mentioned, you don't, so one thing is the reason that, or the problem with the AC method, ladies and gentlemen, the problem with the AC method is what happened if you come to this problem here, okay? Let's take a look at G. G is good. The problem with the AC method is this problem G. And if you look at problem G, and then you take this number, multiply to this number. If you take 12 times 15, and 12 times 15, what do you get? Well, 12 times 15, you will get 180. And this is where the problem comes is if you take this two number, you have 180, and you say, well, is there two number multiplied to give me 180, but subtract to give me 3? So looking at this thing here is, how would we go about to do this? Well, you know, the only problem is you just have to find the multiple of 180 is a lot, and that's where the problem comes with the AC method, is when you get something in this humongous number, it's hard for you to find a multiple. It's, you know, you still can find a multiple, you still can see that this is what you have, right? But you can see that it's painful to find all of the multiple. And that's where the guessing method come in handy, right? If you look at this thing here, you know, we say 1 times 180, 2 times 90, 3 times 60, 4 times 35, right? No, not 35. 4 times 45, and 4 times 45, 5 times 36, and then you have 6 times 30. 7 cannot go into this thing here. 8 times 8 cannot go into here. 9 times 20. And again, you look at this number, you say, well, none of this number still none of this number still subtract to give you 3. And then you say 10 times 18, 11 cannot go into it, 12 times 15. And then you say, whoa, well, that's the number we're looking for, right? 12 times 15. So in the sense, we do the whole round of item to come back to this number, right? So it's still doable, is still doable because 12 times 15, that's my original two number to give me 130. And again, you know, for this number, 12 minus 13, 12 minus 15 or 15 minus 12 to give me 3. So the problem come in is that, ladies and gentlemen, the problem come in is sometimes when you multiply the two number, the problem is humongous. And if the problem is, no, not the problem, but the multiple is humongous, and sometimes you get frustrated to find, you know, you get frustrated to find the item. So, you know, like I say, there's always a pro and there's always a con for all of your problem, right? You know, if this thing here, if you do the if you don't do the AC method, you can do the guessing method. And the guessing method is just basically tell you that this is the multiple of 12 and this is the multiple of 15. Is there any ways you can mix and match, right? Is there any way you can mix and match the two number so that you multiply this item and you multiply this item, one of them positive, one of them negative? Can you mix and match this number so that you can subtract to give you 3, right? Positive 3. So looking at this thing here, you probably, you know, you have to be good with your timetable. So I would do, you know, when I look at this thing here, I can do, or you can do 3 and 4, right? And that's where the problem comes is this is what you have is you look at this here, you say, well, let me do 3 and 4. And over on this side, I cannot use the 3 over there. I have to use the 3 over here and the 5 over here. So it does not work out. 20 minus 9, not working out. I thought I have the number. Not 3 times 10. 620. Wait. There's a multiple that we have. There's a LCD, but again, it's supposed to be the, you know, I make a mistake, guys. It's supposed to be 3 here and the 5 here, and the only reason, you know, you say, well, Mr. Tran, the 3 and the 3 cannot be together. Well, we did not saw, or I did not saw that they have a common divider. They have a GCF, and this is the one time that because they're the GCF, that's why the two items that you have is in common. But this is what we have in the sense that this is 12 and this is negative 15, right? And if you subtract them, you have a negative 3. So we know that it's wrong. So to make it right, we have to change this to a positive, and we have to change this to a negative. But again, I know that you look at this thing here, the idea or the goal for you guys over this weekend, is when you look at this particular problem, for instance, E, when you look at this problem, ask yourself, what can you do, right? Do you want to guess it out? Do you want to just guess the item out by filling in the blank and then multiply them? Or do you want to do the AC method? Okay, so that's the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do I want to guess it, find the two number I put here, either add or subtract and give me this item in the middle? Or do I do the AC method? So this weekend, this is the moment that you have to think and ask yourself. And once you determine if you do the AC method, stick with the AC method all the time. Just stick with the AC method all the time so that you will be good with the AC method. If you determine to guess, then stick with the guessing method all the time. Because if you mix and match, you will get confused. Okay, so over the weekend here, I'm running out of time. So over the weekend, this is what I need you guys, and this is what I want you guys to do. And this is the hardest problem of chapter 6, ladies and gentlemen, because anything after this, I promise you guys, anything after this is very easy. This is the hardest part, is how do you factor them out, okay? So over the weekend, look over chapter 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. Look over those questions, look over those homework, look over those quizzes. And if you have questions, you can either send me an email or you can bring it to class on Monday. Your next test, your chapter 6 test is due next Saturday. So we have next week, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week to hopefully help you master factoring item here, okay?